So main topic for today is the question, is creativity contagious? Okay. So what do we think about that? Creativity, if one person is doing it, how does it impact the people around them? If a group of people is doing it, how does it impact people at a greater scale, maybe? Is it contagious? Can you catch it? Can you catch creativity?
Is there a cream for that?
Is there a cream for creativity?
Coming soon from orangenebula.com. Creativity cream.
Now I want to know, like, does creativity cream stop the spread of creativity? Like, does it help with the inflammation of creativity?
Or does it inspire
Or does it, yeah, do you...
Is it like, hormone therapy where you can take the gel and you can put it on the outside?
Yeah, so there's many different cream routes we could take here.
Yeah. So, can it be caught? I think there's lots of answers to this, so I'm excited to kind of filter through our thoughts here. My first, most simplistic answer is I think yes. I think creativity is contagious. I think when you see the passion that someone has, it can ignite that passion in someone else as well. But I don't think it does it all the time. You almost have to be predisposed to it, right? You have to kind of have a predisposition to want to be creative, I think, for it to actually be catchable.
Predisposed to the predisposition of...
Do you agree or disagree with me?
I don't disagree with that at all. I do think, I think you could be someone really creative in a room with someone who just has no interest in that and they wouldn't become creative. I think that you do need to have some sort of spark in you that can be fanned to life. Mm-hmm. I'm curious what everyone else thinks about this before I...
When I was a kid, I definitely thought that there were creators and people who
consumed.
Yeah. But it wasn't to that extreme. The other half of the coin wasn't aware to me. I just knew that there were people who liked making stuff, and that was like their passion and drive, and that they like filled their free time with just like creating new things. And I like saw that as this like class of person that I wanted to become.
Okay, so you saw it, not that it could be done by anybody, or not that it was.
But it was like, oh, certain
anybody.
People make the stuff that everybody enjoys.
And you caught that disease.
I think.
It was transferred to you from them. So it was contagious in that moment, seeing and imagining these people who were creators.
But it takes
a
different person, or at least for me in my experience, it takes a different person to inspire you into each type of creativity. So for instance, I had people inspiring me into writing and game design much earlier than I was being inspired into musical creation. I was halfway through my musical education, just in the frame of like being a performer, when I was spending a lot of time with Justin, who has had very little like structured and formalized musical education, but he was still uniquely and creatively creating new music, and that really inspired me and opened that whole like frame of engagement with that medium up to me. Even though I had been creating in other aspects of my life, it like took him to show me that, oh, anybody also could just make music.
Okay, so it's not even just like creativity as a whole is contagious, but there's these little niches, variants, if you will, creativity variants that can be caught in different ways, and you have to be able to be exposed to specific types in order to catch that.
They're like strains, one might say.
Yes.
Yes.
We're going to make this as weird as we can.
Which I appreciate.
The way I see it, I feel like we all have this inherent creative force within us. And I guess the contagion part for me comes in the inspiration to be able to open up to that and unlock that. Like, it's already within you, but then when you see somebody who is actively doing that thing, it can take away the fear and the blocks, and you realize, I can do that too. And then once that is gone, it's like a wellspring, because we already have this force just kind of waiting there.
Almost like a gene that just has to be activated.
Yeah.
Like it's dormant, and then the exposure activates it.
Yeah.
I keep also thinking about the different ways that viruses are transferable from people. Like, there's by blood, there's by respiratory droplets. I breathe out, you breathe in. There's lots of different ways that things are transferable. How's creativity transferable? Do you just have to see it? Do you have to, what makes it actually activate within you? Is it just viewing it? Is it something different?
You could definitely tell the time period we are living in.
I know.
For me, I guess, yeah, it's that. Well, I guess it's more when you are physically in the presence, because a lot of times we see a lot of the end product, like the performance or the artwork in a gallery or the endless array of incredible, brilliant work that's viewable online, but physically being in the presence of somebody and just seeing them as a person who is also creating these amazing outputs, I think that kind of brings the, trying to gesture but also talking to the mic, brings those two fields together between creator and creation.
Interesting. So almost like the more exposure and the depth of exposure that you get, the more transferable it is.
Yeah, and exposure to it as a person rather than just as an end product.
Mm-hmm. Because even you, Jared, we're talking about, how many YouTube videos have you watched about music? But it was the fact of being around Justin, who was doing the activity, that actually gave you the kind of roadmap to follow that actually made it feel possible to do those kind of things.
Yeah. One path in for sure is having a mentor, having a master to work under who can be your tutor in the intricacies of whatever this is. And then the other way that it can happen is long distance, just through the piece of art itself. An individual completed project upon your experiencing of it can unlock within you the realization that there are new tiers and levels to thinking and cognition and new ways that things can be explored. Mm-hmm. For example, I read a book recently called All Tomorrows by C.M. Kuzmin, and it explores the next billion years of humanity's rise and fall through evolution, genetic engineering, going throughout all the stars and the planets, and it just takes a look at human history in a way that is speculative in the future, unlike anything that I had ever experienced before. And then I was just the last week listening to a podcast with the author, and he was talking about how he was inspired by a book called After Man, which is a speculative look into the future of what all the animals are going to evolve into if humans went extinct. These goats with their horns are going to coalesce into these like shields on top of their head, and just like going across the entire planet and imagining,
I want one of those.
What do all of these
goat.
animals look like? And that just seeing somebody else's creative exploration can show you that there are new waters to explore for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so that inspired a book of mine.
I wrote down sort of two ways that I think creativity is contagious. I wrote that I think, and there's a little nuanced difference to them that I think we're kind of getting at. I wrote that creative thinking enables other creative thinking.
Which is kind of what Jared was just explaining.
Yeah, so that's sort of like if creativity is like the synapses in your brain at work, like I see this thing or I'm thinking about a problem and all these other experiences and associations start firing off and it starts putting things together and trying things in different ways to come up with something new. Like if that's what I'm doing and I'm doing that in a room with a bunch of other people and they see me doing that, then my doing that triggers something in you, which then adds to the brain. Now we've got two brains as one brain, and then that triggers something in you. And so like we're all in this creative space, and now we're all basically one brain with extra synapses all pinging off of each other. And that's something that we find a lot in the office here is someone will have an idea which then triggers a thought in someone else that they never would have had without this initial idea springboarding onto them, which then springboards over here. So like the actual like energy of creativity itself, like the mechanism of creativity, is creating other creativity that otherwise wouldn't have existed except in that exact context. So like the creativity does make creativity in like an actual like measurable way.
What's interesting about that too, I think, is why that happens so much in this environment, specifically this office, if you will, this group, is that there is actually a pathway to see things to fruition, which which means the environment is more set for the creativity to be contagious. Does that make sense?
That does.
If we were a group of well, I don't know what profession. I think everybody is creative, and whatever profession you're in, it is a level of creativity. But I mean, if we were not in a space where we knew how to take an idea from ideation through delivery, then I don't think that it would be as contagious, because what's the point of going through all of these ideas and coming up with all these concepts if it just dies? We have a space where the contagion is live and healthy because we can actually move projects forward.
I would say that the real benefit in the office is just that there's more, it bounces around more. So like the contagion happens more like in a more concentrated, like more nth degrees. But I do think the same contagion can happen to like one individual. You know, so if you read a book and all of a sudden you have an idea for a book, it's kind of the same thing. Like this thing that you just read triggered something in you that made you have an idea. As you know, many people who play games suddenly have an idea of their own game that is jumping off of something that they played here, and the thing in their brain says, but this could be slightly different, and then that would be neat, and that'd be cool, and that'd be and then you run off on your own little. And so I think the same thing can happen in sort of a like transference long distance way with just one person. It just doesn't have the internal springing thing that we have. And then, you know, and that's what ends up being really needed with a lot of like online spaces, is people can manufacture that in a way. You're right. We have the like logistics to bring it home that make it easier to like
it makes us
go
want to
with
catch it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it makes me want to catch the virus, the creative virus, because it feels like it's possible. It makes it go further, I think. Grow more roots in our systems.
I buy into that. So that's my first thought of how creativity is contagious, is that it, you know, enables creativity.
Yes.
The other one is just that the act of being creative inspires other people to want to pursue the act of being creative. So it's not necessarily like I read that book and it made me think of a different book, and so now
idea.
It's just like, look, that person is being creative and bringing something out of themselves, and for whatever like psychological, emotional reason that I personally have, and it'll be different for many people, and even for ourselves in our own lives, like maybe it's envy, maybe it's just inspiring you, maybe you're jealous, maybe like there could be any litany of reasons. Seeing someone be creative makes you want to be creative, but in a lot of ways, it's not even necessarily like their idea gave you an idea. It's just the fact that they had an idea makes you think I want an idea too. Or like you're saying, realize the potential exists to have an idea, you know, and then I think this can happen large scale. Like that country is solving their energy problem. Other countries now think maybe we should solve our energy problem or whatever. Like companies do this all the time. Look at them innovating. Why aren't we innovating? And it doesn't, their innovation doesn't directly trigger the whatever it is this group is going to do, but the idea of that is an option is sort of a different type of contagion.
And I think that's really important too, because then it's not even dependent on the outcome. Whatever stage that you are inhabiting currently, whether you're a beginner, you're a student, you're a professional, all of those have the potential to spark that interest and passion in other people who are maybe at that stage or not quite there yet.
And this is where the sickness thing breaks down. Because I can't say, Jared is sick, I could be sick too, and then just become
We're all
sick. Yeah. So the metaphor is flawed.
I do think you talked about envy for a minute, and envy is an interesting one, because I find for myself, when I feel envy, it actually almost shuts down my creativity. Like sometimes I follow people on social media, and there's somebody who maybe is doing something that's like what I want to be doing. And if I start feeling envious, like, how come they're there and I'm not there? Well, I want to be there. Why am I not there? It actually toggles off my creativity switch and makes me not want to try as much. And I'll usually pretty quickly unfollow somebody that way, because I can sense that in myself, that envy turns off my desire to do my best, because I'm comparative at that point. So So that's a little bit of a different variation, because they're being creative, and they're being creative in a way that I want to be, but because I'm viewing them in that way, it's doing the opposite. It's not inspiring me.
I mean, if you go on YouTube and look up any like virtuosic musician, the comments underneath are people being like, well, I just threw away my guitar, or man, I wish I could on the piano, you know, and that there are, I think that is a very common human response, that if the exceptional like creativity that you're observing isn't like immediately feasible to your mind, that there is this impulse, this itch to just give up. Yeah.
It's a depression as opposed to an activation sometimes.
Yeah. I feel like that envy feeling, though, can also be like a sign that, okay, this is something that I care about. Like, it can be an indicator. For example, there's so many people who are very successful in their fields or have, whatever sort of external outcomes, like they're succeeding at whatever they're doing. And you probably feel no envy about that, because you would not want that to be in that position for anything, and you don't care about what they're doing. It just genuinely doesn't interest you. But when you feel that little, oh, I would want that, then like, I feel like that can be a sign that that is what matters to you. And then kind of taking that out of a realm of, oh, that person has it, I want that, but just realizing, oh, I want that, and then doing that. And then I feel like that kind of leads into, it's like the external, I guess that's a kind of contagion. You're seeing it externally, and then it's arising in you.
I wonder if part of that, when we talk about the idea of being exposed to some a real person who you can actually see do the process, when I start to feel that desire of envy, it's usually because I can't see the path. I see that they have what I want, but I don't know the path. And that lack of understanding, that lack of clarity, feels like a depression as opposed to an activation. And so if I had somebody that I knew that was that successful, that had what I wanted from a creative standpoint, and I could actually watch and be mentored by them, then it might end up being much more of a contagion to me. Does that make sense?
I think it does. And I think a lot of this is really subjective to where we're all at in our lives, and at different times and at different mindsets and in different contexts. I think, the flip side of that is sometimes, just if we're still on this like envy or jealousy thing, like sometimes I think that can encourage people to dive into something like, look, this person has used their creativity and now they're getting to do this thing that they want to do. I'm capable of doing that, and I want to do that thing. Like,
but there has
and
to
then
be
they
that
go out
belief
and do
of
it.
Your own capability.
Well, sure.
That's the
but that's what I'm.
crux.
Yeah. But there's going to be as many different versions of that as there are people. So like everyone's response to that is going to be a very specific to them thing. But I think seeing someone else be creative can completely inspire you to go and be creative. Like we have had many people write to us that say, hey, I listened to the Outpost and I was inspired to make this thing now because I see you people making things, and they see that we're just a bunch of jokers, and yet here we are making a thing, and then they realize I also can make a thing, and I feel like frustrated with myself and with my life that I haven't done this yet. So they have this sort of like tumultuous emotional reaction to seeing someone else be creative, but then something trips in them to where they become willing to embrace it and to give themselves permission and to step forward. And so sometimes something like envy or jealousy can shut a person down. Other times it can be the catalyst that makes them realize, like, I don't want to just exist in a state of jealousy. I want to actually do the thing. And so I think that's going to be really like unique to each person.
And I think also if you break it down to its essential components, the thing that you are wanting, and removing it from that external outcome, like you are just doing it for these pieces that inspire you and that fill you with life, then it is immediately attainable. Like the end outcome of, oh, this person has written this book, or it's somehow
if
made
you define success as the doing of the thing as opposed to the result of doing the thing.
Exactly. Then it is immediately attainable.
Yeah, if the question is creativity contagious? You know, there's the whole brain synapse part, but then in this context, I think what it does that makes it contagious is it takes the idea of creativity and puts it on you to consider. And everyone's going to think, you know, some people will shut it down, other people will ignore it because they don't have that predisposition. But anyone who has something in them that wants to be creative, even if they weren't aware of it yet, who like just everyone then gets to grapple in their own way with the question of, hey, look, creativity, it's a thing. Like, seeing other people be creative puts, hey, this is a thing in your view for you to approach in your own way, whatever that is, wherever you're at in your life. But I think it is creative just by putting it in front of people, or it is contagious.
I agree, but I think it taking hold, that contagion, that virus taking hold of you, I just can't stop thinking about you talking about your belief in your own capability. You know, I think that is what moves the virus forward.
Well, and hopefully seeing other people be creative
inspires that belief.
Does do not what you were describing where it shuts you down, but it makes you feel like, you know what, I can do this. Like, you know, that kid on YouTube is doing it. Like, I can do it. Why am I not trusting myself to be able to do this? And that's why I think it's really a positive thing for us to share and be open, us being people, to share and be open about our creativity and the way that we think about it and the fact that we're doing it and the struggles with it and the successes in it and like how it enriches and challenges our lives. Because then anyone who wants that, even unconsciously, to be part of their human experience, it shows you that other people are having that be part of their experience too. It's not some distant thing like you saw as a child before you grew up that like those are the people set apart. You know, it can be a part of everyone's experience. And I think it's sort of, there's like a leveling of the playing field when we're all just open about it and talk about creativity like it's this thing that just exists as part of life and not just something creative types do.
I agree. Well, good job doing your part to spread
the creative virus.
the creative virus today.
Smear the cream.
Creativity Cream Kickstarter launching 2023.
That would probably do okay, actually.
That could be our April Fools.
I just want a good April Fool's joke all the time. Okay, well, thank you three very much for your time today. I always appreciate getting to spend some time with you here. I made it through 3/4 of my Cliff Bar, and so I call it a success.
That's a good day.
It really is. If you enjoyed this podcast and you want to hear more from us, maybe you've got some better ideas about what we should be talking about. orangenebula.com/topics. You can head over there and tell us whatever you want.
That's where most of the community questions come from.
Yes.
Throw them in there.
We'll see you in the Outpost community as well. Subscribe, leave us a review if you liked it. If you don't, you know what to do. Leave us alone. And that's all I got. Anybody got anything else before I send us home?
No. I mean, the Outpost community is a Facebook group. We also have a Discord channel that you can reach through orangenebula.com where we hang out and, you know, do Discord things. It's pretty laid back in there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.